Om Brahmanandam Paramasukadam Kevalam Jnanamurtim Dandvatītam Gaganasadarsham Tattvamasyaati Laksham Ekam Nityam Vimalam Achalam Sarvadi Sakshibhutam Bhavatītam Trigunarehitam Satgurum Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. I wanted to tell you that after the Yoga Vashishtha, there is another text which also is worth going into, not now. And that is the Amruta Anubhava by Sant Gyaneshwar. Quite similar, little different. Amruta Anubhava is something is good to read. Not as tough as this, but Om Tat Sat, Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Etas sarvani bhutani pratibhanti sthitani cha etrei avo apashamam yanti tasmai satyatmane namaha. I bow down to that reality in which all the elements and all the animate and inanimate beings shine as if they have an independent existence. Underline, as if they have an independent existence, and in which they exist for a time and into which they merge back again. Jnata jnanam tatha jneyam drishta darshana drishyavu karta hetu kriya yasmat tasmai jnanaptyatmane namaha. I also bow down to that consciousness which is, you can hear me now everywhere? To that conscious, it is all pervading, okay? Which is the source of the apparently distinct threefold divisions. Apparently distinct, not really distinct. Knower, knowledge and known. Seer, sight and seen. Doer, doing and deed. Spuranti sikara yasmad anandasya ambare manav sarvesham jivatmam tasmai brahmananda atmane namaha. Brahmananda atmane namaha. Salutations to that bliss absolute, the ocean of bliss, which is the life of all beings, whose happiness and unfoldment are derived from the shower that comes from that ocean of bliss. My private mantra before Sri Rajarajeshwari Tripura Sundari Kulakundali Mahamaya ki jai. Sri Shuddha Brahma Parat Para Ramachandra Mahaprabhu ki jai. Pavana Sutta Hanuman ki jai. The prana that keeps me alive. Mahamuni Vasishtha Mahavatar Mahabhag ki jai. Sri Jagat Guru Krishna Paramatma ki jai. Sri Bhagavad Pad Sri Shankaracharya ki jai. So we ended yesterday where they gathered again, and Rama said to Vasishtha, hence, O Lord, I pray, resume your most excellent discourse. Vasishtha said, O Rama, please bear with us, it will be a little bit dry, but give attention to it, and then we'll come to a story. O Rama, kindly listen to this discourse on the divisions of the universe, on the dissolution of the universe and the attainment of supreme peace. Can we reduce this light a little bit? Thoda sa. Anything happening? Otherwise, reduced, yes, reduced. Anyway, Vashishtha said, "O Rama, kindly listen to the discourse on the dissolution of the universe and the attainment of supreme peace. This seemingly unending world appearance," that means the appearance of the world seems unending, "is sustained by rajasa, activity, and tamasa, dullness, both inertia and activity. They go hand in hand. Even as a superstructure is sustained by pillars, but it is playfully and easily abandoned by those who are of a pure nature, even as the skin is effortlessly abandoned by a snake. They who are of pure sattvic nature, and they whose activities, rajas is activity, you must understand, these are also three terms from Sankhya, sattva, rajas and tamas. And all things in this world, including human beings, are governed by these three tattvas in different proportions. And human beings also, therefore. Some of us have more rajas, some of us have more sattva, some of us have more tamas. Tamas can be easily detected because you'll only want to eat, drink and sleep, not do anything whatsoever. Can you hear me if my voice drops? Yeah, good. Because I was talking of tamas, it went down. Now, rajas is movement, activity. Now, this is of two kinds. Activity that is conducive to spiritual progress, and activity which is not conducive to spiritual practice but is still activity. Two words. Now, the more one has or develops the rajas which leads you towards spiritual progress, the more you move towards sattva. Everybody has some proportions. So, when you start, you must be having varied proportions of sattva, rajas and tamas. There is nobody who doesn't have at least a little bit of sattva. Even in tamoguna, if you have 90% tamoguna, there is still 1% sattva, which is what makes you sometimes, the most lazy fellow, think, what am I doing? Is there something more? Be there. But our duty is through positive rajas, practices, ways of living, which takes towards sattva, to increase the sattva bank balance. So that when the mind becomes completely pure through sattva, then it quietly collapses by itself, and then there is only the supreme consciousness. It's giving you roughly some idea, because the next sentence is, therefore, they who are of pure sattvic nature, and they whose activities, means rajas, are based on purity and light, do not live their life mechanically, but inquire into the origin and the nature of this world appearance. When such inquiry is conducted with the help of the right study of scriptures and the company of the holy ones, I don't know what this little one is understanding, he's just sitting. Anyway, so when such enquiry is conducted with the help of the right study of scriptures and the company of holy ones, there arises a clear understanding within oneself in which truth is seen as a light of a lamp. Not until this truth is perceived by oneself, for oneself, through such inquiry, is the truth seen truly. You notice that nowadays I am reading slowly, because first 2 days I was reading a little fast, and it occurred to me that nobody understood a word. I mean, maybe a little bit. So I'm going slow. Doesn't matter, we'll do the Yoga Vashishtha. So, O Rama, you are indeed of a pure nature. Therefore, inquire into the nature of the truth and falsehood and be devoted to the truth. That which was not in the beginning and which will cease to be after some time, how can you regard that as the truth? That alone can be regarded as truth, which has always been and which will always be. See, anything that the senses show us through the mind is something that will be for some time and then go forever. There's nothing permanent there. So if it is not permanent, how can it be the truth? So seek for that which is permanent behind and beyond these changing objects which are here today and gone tomorrow. Says Vashishtha to Rama. Birth, O Rama, is of the mind, and growth is also of the mind. And when the truth is clearly seen, it is the mind that is liberated from its own ignorance. Hence, let the mind be led along the path of righteousness by the prior study of scriptures, company of holy ones, which means Satsanga, and the cultivation of, very important, dispassion. Equipped with these, one should resort to the feet of a guru, whose wisdom is perfected by faithfully adhering to the teachings of the master. This is important. One gradually attains to the plane of total purity. O Rama, behold the self. See, sometimes if you do something wrong also, suppose, it is actually good, because if you didn't do that, how will I talk to you today many times? So, O Rama, behold the self by the self through pure inquiry, even as the cool mind perceives the entire universe. One is tossed over the waters of this illusory world appearance like a piece of straw, only as long as one does not get into the secure boat of self-inquiry. Even as particles of sand floating in water settle down when the water is absolutely steady, the mind of a man who has gained the knowledge of the truth settles down in total peace. Once this knowledge of the truth is gained, that's one thing. Once this knowledge of the truth is gained, it is never lost. It's not like something else. You gain and you lose. You gain and you lose. So you're wanting it back again. Here, once found is always found. Done. Even if a piece of gold, has been in a heap of ashes, the goldsmith finds no problem in seeing it. When the truth has not been known, there may be confusion. But once it is known, there can be no confusion. Ignorance of the self is the cause of your sorrow. Knowledge of the self leads to delight and tranquility. Vashishtha continued, Rama, resolve the confusion between the body and the self, and you will be at peace at once. Even as a nugget of gold fallen into mud is never spoiled by the mud, the self is untainted by the body. With uplifted arms I proclaim, says Vashishtha, like this. The self is one thing and the body is another, even as the water and the lotus that grows on it. But no one listens to me. Vashishtha is lamenting, nobody is listening to me. Actually talking to Rama. As long as the inert and insentient mind pursues the path of pleasure, so long this darkness of world illusion cannot be dispelled. But the moment one awakens from this and inquires into the nature of the self, this darkness is dispelled at once. Hence, one should constantly endeavor to awaken the mind which dwells in the body in order that one may go beyond the process of becoming. For it is becoming that is fraught with sorrow. And if you look at it carefully, in our minds, we are always constantly in a state of becoming. Why? Because we are not satisfied with what we have become. And this never stops. You are becoming, and then you are dead. It's gone. Is there somewhere where you realize there is nothing to become and you are what you actually are? That, according to Vashishtha, is the truth. Even as the sky is not affected by the dust particles floating in it, the self is unaffected by the body. Pleasure and pain are falsely imagined to be experienced by oneself, even as one falsely thinks that the sky is polluted by dust. In fact, pleasure and pain are neither of the body nor of the self, because the self transcends everything. They belong only to ignorance. Their loss is no loss. Neither pleasure nor pain belong to anyone. The mind conjures it up. All indeed is the self, which is supreme peace and infinite. Realize this, O Rama. The self and the world are neither identical nor are they different. All this is but the reflection of the truth. Nothing but the one supreme Brahman exists. I am different from this is pure fancy. Give it up, Rama. The one self perceives within itself the infinite consciousness, and there is no sorrow, no delusion, no birth, no creation, no creature, whatever is. Be free from distress, O Rama. Be free of duality. Remain firmly established in the self, abandoning even concern for your own welfare. Be at peace within, with a steady mind. If you see later on, you will see this reflected in Rama's character, whatever he does. The inside is calm and cool, and the outside is doing things. Good things. Rest in the inner silence. Let there be no sorrow in your mind. Remain alone with self-willed thoughts. Be brave, having conquered the mind and the senses. Be desireless, content with what comes to you unsought. When a person touches the essence of everything, the Brahman, he or she is content with what comes to you unsought. This is what he's saying. The fact is, when you touch that, what is required for you will come unsought. You don't have to ask. But we have fear, what will happen? Nothing would happen. The earth, the Prakriti is very funny. When you want something, it goes far from you. When you say, this is nothing, it comes to you. That's the time when you're tested. You have to be careful. You say, okay, I will take what is necessary and leave the rest. For survival. Yeah, that's really a rule. It happens. There was a time when I was very young and I really desired to have some Tirunelveli halwa. I couldn't find it. Nobody gave me. Then the mind came to rest. After the mind came to rest, you go and see in my room, there are 10 kgs of Tirunelveli halwa sitting. If I eat the whole thing at once, you'll have to take me in the ambulance. Anyway, live effortlessly without grabbing or giving up anything. Be free from all mental perversions and from the blinding taint of illusion. Rest content in your own self. Thus be free from all distress. Remain in an expansive state in the self, like the full ocean. Rejoice in the self, by the self, like the blissful rays of the full moon. Vasishtha continued, O Rama, he who knows that all activities merely happen because of the mere existence of consciousness, even as a crystal reflects the objects around it without intending to do so. Crystal doesn't say, I want to reflect, but it reflects. When you know that, you are liberated. They who, even after taking this human birth, are not interested in such non-volitional activity, go from heaven to hell and from hell to heaven and then heaven to hell and again and again. When you say heaven and hell, don't think of a location. Your mind itself is heaven, is also hell. You don't have to look for it in any location. It is hell when it is teeming with desires and in pain that is not being able to satisfy the desires, in pain that it is not getting what it wants. That is hell, right? You may be living, you may be resting in a recliner made from that company in Bombay, sleeping something. But your mind is still in hell. However, there may be somebody who has seen through this game, who may be sitting on a straw mat, contented, happy. He's in heaven. Right? Now, after some time, they'll give you an example of someone who actually lived in a palace but was free. Will come. Now, he who has taken birth, listen carefully, he who has taken birth for the last time now, suppose, is endowed with a mixture of sattva and rajas, little bit of rajas and little bit of sattva, very little of tamoguna, because this may be his last life. Rajas is there little bit, taint, And sattva, little more. Very hardly any tamoguna, if that person has taken birth for the last time. Because in all the many lives he has seen the world and said, this is all there is to it. Let me be free. Suppose it doesn't happen in this life, then what happens? The Bhagavad Gita, there is a chapter called Abhyasa Yoga. 6th chapter. Some people call it Dhyana Yoga, but Abhyasa Yoga. Yoga of practice, sadhana. In that, Arjuna asks the question, okay, Krishna. No, first Krishna tells him that develop a mind that is like a flame without wind. Steady. Arjuna says to Krishna, look boss, this is impossible for me. He didn't say boss, but this is not possible. You can say stop the wind, I might, but I cannot have a mind which is like a flame without wind. It's such a process is so far away from me, I don't think I can do it. So, what is the next question? So what will happen to me? Because I am exerting in the direction which you asked me to, spending all my time here with that, and I am not able to attain it. Because of that, I also neglected the world. So there is no success also happening there. What happens to a fellow like me? Am I going to hang in midair like Trishanku Surga, neither up nor down? What happens to people like that? What is their fate? Because if you say I have to start from the very beginning, square one, this is tough. Why should I? Krishna says to him, O Arjuna, my friend, don't worry. You don't have to start from square one. The sadhana of many lives is your solid bank balance. It has also earned a lot of interest. Hold on to that. Then, if in this birth you are not able to fulfill it, of course the body will die, but you will then be born under two circumstances. One, you will be born in a family of learned ones who have for many years in succession learnt about the scripture, or someone in whose family someone has realized the truth, or who know what leads to moksha. You will be born in such a family. And quite young you will imbibe it and you will finish your journey there. All the bank balance you developed is still there. You will add a little more and go there. Second, or you will be born in a wealthy but good family, so that by the time you are mature you will realize this is all that wealth can give us. There is nothing more. The dollar cannot buy happiness. So you will divert to the spiritual path, and when you do that, a teacher will come and teach you how to move forward. So keep the intention fresh, clear in your mind, don't let go. In the same way, Vashishtha says, he who has, now such a person is called a Yoga Brashta. He who has taken birth for the last time now is a Yoga Brashta, is endowed with a mixture of sattva and rajas. More sattva, less rajas. Right from birth he grows in holiness. The nobler type of knowledge enters into him with ease, because he has experimented in many lives. There is a faint memory of it still. And say there is no way out. The nobler type of knowledge enters into him with ease. All the noble qualities like, please don't think that this is meant for somebody else. Who knows? Maybe your last words, who knows? Does anybody know? Nobody knows. This could be either somebody's life ending or about to end, or it could be a VIP coming this side. So the sound and the light are the same. The other guy is going in a stretcher, he is coming in a stretcher. Anyway, then what happens? The nobler type of knowledge then enters into him with ease. All the noble qualities like friendliness, compassion. Please listen to the qualities. If you have any of them or all of them, then you are the last birth. All noble qualities like friendliness, compassion, wisdom, goodness, and magnanimity. Seek him and take an abode in him. He performs all appropriate actions, but is not swayed if the results appear to be gain or loss. He will not move from his radar of goodness. Maybe good, maybe bad, maybe loss, maybe no. Such a liberated one, nor does he feel elated or depressed. His heart is clear. And then he is much sought after by people. That is where the problem comes. When he is sought after by many people, then in a way the peace is not there much. So there is only two ways out. Either pretend that you are not, or run away to a far away place and sit there quietly in the tree. Only two ways out for such a person. He is much sought after by people. Such a one who is full of all the noble qualities seeks and follows an enlightened master who directs him along the path of self-knowledge. He then realizes the self, which is the one cosmic being. Such a liberated one awakens the inner intelligence which had been asleep so far. And this awakened intelligence instantaneously knows and recognizes that it is the infinite consciousness. Becoming constantly aware of the inner light, such a blessed one instantly ascends into the utterly pure state. Such is the normal course of evolution, Rama. This is how it happens normally. But Rama, however, there are exceptions to this rule. In the case of those who have taken birth in this world, two possibilities exist for the attainment of liberation. The first is, as I said before, treading the path indicated by the Master, the seeker gradually reaches the goal of liberation. The second type, rare, is self-knowledge literally drops into his lap, as it were, and there is instant enlightenment. If you look into, so I shall narrate to you an ancient legend which illustrates the second type of enlightenment. Please listen. Now before he says, I want to tell you another case of self-knowledge literally dropping into somebody's lap. He is going to talk about it, Vashishtha. The only person in contemporary times I can think of is Ramana Maharishi. Because in the usual course, one seeks a guru, one seeks a teacher. Now don't think everybody is Ramana Maharishi. Okay, let me make it clear. A rare individual who has gone through many things in many lives, and this may be his last life. No more to do. You will find that this person, this Ramana, did not have a guru, did not have any instruction, did not read the scriptures. In fact, when it fell on his lap, he was trying to work on his mathematics for the examination. And then it fell on his lap, suddenly he didn't know how, why. He said to himself, I am not this body. This he said, then who am I? No, this is not simple. You don't go and lie down in your bed and say, I am not this body, then who? This is mere imitation. It occurred to him naturally, and it was not a thought but an experience that you are not a body. And then he said, in that case, then who am I? Then he found out that he is the Supreme Self, none other than the Supreme Self. Of course, he wandered many years, some years, with this thought in mind, and that was his meditation. And as the mind went deeper and deeper and deeper, he found that it is not the mind but only the self. Rare case. This is an example as quoted by Vashishtha, that in some rare cases it happens that they don't have a teacher and it just drops on it, which doesn't mean that in their past lives they did not have teachers. It's quite possible, we don't know. So it's better to leave it like that and not go into unnecessary detail. Now Vashishtha is going to tell about somebody like that. Otherwise, believe me, for most of us, self-effort is required. Now even in Ramana Maharishi's case, even though he suddenly discovered this, he for many years wandered in the hills contemplating on it, which is self-effort. Lot of self-effort. Sometimes he didn't have food, sometimes he didn't know where to stay. In fact, he stayed for some time in the Patal Gufa, in the Tiruvannamalai temple. And somebody found him inside. There was another kind of yogi, realized person, who many people did not recognize, who used to sing songs and sometimes walk and sometimes say crazy things. Suddenly you would be sitting with a few people, say, hey, come on, light incense. I said, why Swami? Hi, they are going. Not the heavenly names, but... So, I forgot his name now. Sheshadri. See, everybody knows. So he had a hint that there is somebody sitting inside the cave where nobody goes, under the temple. It's a vault. So he went there and found this young boy sitting there, completely covered by scorpions. And he took out the scorpions, washed his body, and then he got up and went off because he knew somebody found me out, so let me get out. Then he went to the hills, to the mountains, you know all that. So he stayed there. Now this is rare. But watch out. Even though it happened suddenly to him, with no known teachers around, again there was self-effort for many years before he realized his aim. Before he said, okay, deham, naham, koham, soham. So there also self-effort is required. But that self-effort will be done naturally, with no fights, no disturbances, no two minds. This happens in rare individuals. Others, like us, we have to work hard. So Vashishtha continued. Oh Rama, there is a great monarch, a king, whose vision is unlimited and who rules over Videha. He is known as Janaka. To those who seek his aid, he is a cornucopia. In his presence, the heart lotuses of his friends blossom. He is like unto a son for them. He is a great benefactor to all good people. Now, one day, this Janaka, the king, went to a pleasure garden where he roamed freely. While he was thus roaming, he heard the inspiring words uttered by certain rishis, perfected rishis, who were in the garden somewhere. He only heard the sound. The perfected ones sang. We contemplate on that self, which reveals itself as the pure experience of bliss. When the experiencer comes into contact with it, the experience is without division or concepts. We contemplate the self in which the objects are reflected non-volitionally. Once the divided experience of subject and object is gone, the intention or violation is gone, and the division has ceased. We contemplate that light that illumines all that shines, the self that transcends the twin concepts of is and is not, and which therefore is in the middle of the two sides, as it were. You can't say it is, you cannot say it is not. We contemplate that reality in which everything exists, to which everything belongs, from which everything has emerged, which is the cause of everything and which is everything. We contemplate the self, which is the very basis of all language and expression, being the Alpha and Omega, which covers the entire field from A to Ha, and which is indicated by the word Aham, I. Alas, people run after other objects, foolishly giving up the Lord who dwells in the cave of one's own heart. He who, having known the worthlessness of objects, still remains bound at heart to them, is not a human being. One should strike down every craving with the rod of wisdom, whether that craving is arisen or is about to rise in the heart. One should enjoy the delight that flows from peace. The man whose mind is well controlled is firmly established in peace. When the heart is thus established in peace, there arises only pure bliss of the self without delay. Vashishtha continued. Having heard the words of the sages, King Janaka became terribly depressed. With the utmost expedition, he traced his steps to the palace. Quickly dismissing all his attendants, he sought the seclusion of his own chamber. In a mood of intense anguish he sat. Janaka said to himself, Alas, alas, I am helplessly swinging like a stone in this world of misery. What is the duration of a lifespan in eternity? Yet I have developed a love for it. Weigh on my mind. What is sovereignty even during a whole lifetime? That like a fool, I think I cannot do without it. This lifespan of mine is but a trivial moment. Eternity stretched before and after. How shall I cherish it now? Once a yogi, Bairagi, walked into a king's palace. For some reason the king liked him very much. Nobody knows. And he proudly showed him his palace. He said, see the golden roof and look at my golden throne, everything. How do you like my palace? Vairagi said, which palace? I thought you showed me a caravan. I said, what do you mean? He said, this is a palace I built with my own hands, with great difficulty. Why are you saying this? He said, because. Okay, he said, I have a question. Before you, who sat here? He said, my father. Okay. Before him? His father. Before him? His father. So it still looks like a caravan to me. People have come and people have gone and they're sitting there. You will go at some time, it will still be there, and your successor will say, look at my palace. Who is that magician who has spread this illusion called the world? Janaka is contemplating, sitting in his room, and thus deluded me. How is it that I am so deluded? Realizing that what is near and what is far is all in my mind. I shall give up the apprehension of all external objects, knowing that all the busyness in this world, I am busy because I am a king, leads only to endless suffering. What hope shall I cherish for happiness? Day after day, month after month, year after year, moment after moment, I see happiness comes to me bearing sorrow. And then sorrow comes to me again and again. Whatever is seen or experienced here is subject to change and destruction. There is nothing whatsoever in this world which the wise should rely on. They who are exalted today are trodden under the foot tomorrow. Foolish mind, what shall we trust in this world? Alas, I am bound without a cord. I am tainted without impurity. I am fallen though remaining at the top. O myself, what a mystery is this! Even as the ever-brilliant sun suddenly faces a cloud floating in front of him, I find this strange delusion mysteriously floating towards me. Who are these friends and relatives? What are these pleasures? Even as a boy seeing a ghost is frightened, I am deluded by these fanciful relatives. Knowing such relatives, as cords that bind me to this old age, death, etc., I still cling to them. Let these relatives continue or perish. What is in it to me? Great events and great men have come and gone, leaving just a memory behind. And what shall one place one's reliance upon? On Reliance Industries? Even gods and the Trinity have come and gone 1,000,000 times. What is permanent in this universe? It is vain hope that binds one to this nightmare known as world experience. What a wretched condition am I in. The difference between one king and another, like Janaka, is that some other king is still living in this illusion, thinking I am very powerful. Nothing will happen to me, but time takes you away. like the old English poem, sceptre and crown must tumble down, and in the dust we equal made. So, he continued, Janaka, I am like an ignorant fool, deluded by the goblin known as the sense ego. I am ego sense, which creates the false feeling that I am so and so. Knowing full well that time has trampled underfoot countless gods and trinities, but not in the experience of the bliss of infinite consciousness. Days and nights I spent in vain cravings, but not in the experience of infinite consciousness. I have gone from sorrow to sorrow, but dispassion does not arise in me. Now please understand that this Janaka was an extraordinary being. Otherwise, he would have heard the song, whistled and gone home. Or would have thought how to set it to music or something. Even if what shall I regard as excellent or desirable? Seeing that whatever one cherishes in the world has passed away, leaving one miserable. Day by day people in this world grow in sin and violence. Day by day they experience greater sorrow. Childhood is wasted in ignorance. Youth is wasted in lusting after pleasures. And the rest of one's life is spent in family worries. What does a stupid person achieve in this life? Even if one performs great religious rites, one may go to heaven, nothing more. And what is heaven? It is on earth or in the netherworld. Is there a place which is untouched by affliction? Sorrow brings happiness, happiness brings sorrow on his shoulders. The pores of the earth are filled with the dead bodies of beings. That's why it looks solid. There are beings in this universe whose winking is of the duration of an entire manvantara. What is my lifespan in comparison? Of course, there appear to be delightful and enduring objects in this world, but they bring with them endless worries and anxieties. Prosperity is truly adversity, and adversity may be desirable depending upon the effect upon the mind. Mind alone is the seed of this delusion of world appearance. It is the mind that gives rise to the false sense of I and mine. Vashishtha continues, seeing the king thus seated, engrossed in deep contemplation, his bodyguard respectfully approached him and said, Lord, it is time to consider your royal duties. Your Majesty's handmaiden awaits your pleasure, having prepared your perfumed bath in the tub with all the salt and all that. Your Majesty's handmaiden awaits your pleasure, having prepared your perfumed bath. The holy priests await your arrival in the bath chamber to commence the chanting of. Now, when a king like Janaka has a bath, not only is the tub perfumed, the priests chant Swastina Bhavatu and so on, they keep chanting. May you be fine, may you be healthy, may you be. You can't even tell them, get out, no. Holy priests await your arrival in the bath chamber to commence the chanting of the hymns. Lord, arise and let what has to be done, for noble men are never unpunctual or negligent. Ignoring the bodyguard's words, King Janaka continued to muse. What shall I do with this court? And the royal duties, when I know that all these are ephemeral, they are useless to me. I shall renounce all activities and duties and remain immersed in the bliss of the self. O mind, abandon your craving for sense pleasures so that you may be rid of the miseries of repeated old age and death. Whatever be the condition in which you hope to enjoy happiness, that very condition proves to be the source of unhappiness. Enough of this sinful conditioned pleasure-seeking life. Seek the delight that is natural and inherent in you. Seeing that the king was silent, bodyguard also became silent. What shall I seek to gain in this universe? Nothing. When intelligence is rooted in equanimity, what is lost and how? I do not long to have any such things. When the mind is thus established in desirelessness, when it does not seek pleasure, when the body and its limbs perform their natural functions, action and inaction are of equal value or meaning. Reflecting thus, Janaka rose from his seat as the sun rises on the horizon and began to engage himself in the royal duties without any attachment to them. Having abandoned all concepts of desirable and undesirable, freed from all psychological conditions and intention, he engaged himself in spontaneous and appropriate action as if in deep sleep, though wide awake. He performed the day's task, including the adoration of the holy ones. And at the conclusion of the day, he retired to his own seclusion to spend the night in deep meditation, which was easy and natural to him. His mind had naturally turned away from all the confusion and delusion and had become firmly established in equanimity. And then he rose in the morning. Then he said to himself, "O unsteady mind, the worldly life is not conducive to your true happiness. Hence, reach the state of equanimity. It is such equanimity that you will experience peace, bliss and truth. There is nobody in this world who can lead you to the state of fullness. Find it for yourself. Hence, resolutely take refuge in courage and endurance and overcome your own waywardness." Vashishtha continued, "Having reached the understanding already described, Janaka functioned as a king and did all that was necessary without getting befuddled and with a great strength of mind and spirit. In fact, he moved about as if he were continually in a state of deep sleep, which is not to say that you can drive with your eyes closed. The light of self-knowledge, I have a friend here who lives in the United States. People were complaining that she drives with her eyes closed. I asked her, she said, "I'm meditating." But the people on the road are not meditating. The light of Chidatma, self-knowledge, arose in his heart. Free from the least taint of impurity and sorrow, even as the sun rises on the horizon, he beheld everything in the universe as existing only in Chit Shakti, cosmic power. Janaka had become a liberated one while still living, Jivana Mukta. Remaining forever in the consciousness of the infinite, he experienced the state of non-action, even though he appeared to others to be ever busy in diverse actions. Janaka attained whatever he did by dint of his own enquiry. Similarly, one should pursue the enquiry into the nature of truth till one reaches the very limits of such enquiry. defects, desires and evils do not approach that person of wisdom whose mind is undeluded. Through wisdom in the inner light, the entire world is clearly seen as it is. Neither good fortune nor misfortune can approach one who has such clear vision. The darkness of ego sins, which veils the self, is dispelled by wisdom. He who seeks to be established in the highest state of consciousness should first purify his mind with the cultivation of wisdom or by the kindling of the inner light. Vashishtha continued, "My teachings are not meant for those, O Rama, whose intelligence has been silenced by vain faith in the illusory world and the consequent striving for pleasures of this world. My teachings are not meant for those, O Rama, whose intelligence has been silenced by a firm faith in the reality of this illusory world and the consequent striving for pleasures of this world. What foolish one will endeavor to show a colorful forest to one who refuses to see? Who will strive to educate that person whose nose has been eaten away by leprosy in the delicate art of distinguishing different perfumes? Who will instruct the drunkard in the subtleties of metaphysics? Who will make enquiries concerning village affairs from a corpse lying in the crematorium? If a fool does just this, you can dissuade him from such foolish attempts. Even so, who can instruct the ignorant person who finds it difficult to govern the mind which is dumb and blind? What indeed is the individual soul but a word which has befuddled the intelligence of people? Even the finite or individualized consciousness is a fancy. What can it do? Seeing the fate of ignorant people who are suffering because the mind that they have fancied into existence veils the truth which alone exists, out of pity I am talking these things, not me, Vashishtha. In this world, Vashishtha, fools are born only to suffer and perish. Every day, millions upon millions of mosquitoes are killed by the wind. From the smallest ant to the greatest of divinities, all are subject to birth and death. Every moment, countless beings die and countless others are born, totally regardless of whether people like it or not, whether they rejoice or grieve. Hence, it were wiser neither to grieve nor to rejoice over the inevitable. O Rama, please, this is all Vashishtha saying, I am not inventing. I am afraid of calling people fools actually. Why? Because I might be a fool myself. Once when I was with Maheshwarnath Babaji, and there was another disciple of his with me. And I was doing such things that I really got wild. So I went to him and called him idiot, fool, all kinds of things. And then he kept quiet. When Babaji came and he said, "Did you call him a fool just now?" I said, "Yes, Babaji, look." He said, "Stop." There was a small mirror nearby in a rest house. He said, "Go there, ask permission, look at the mirror and find out if you are a fool or he is a fool. Go." So I'm afraid of using that word. I never use that. Nobody has heard me calling anybody a fool. Vasishtha has the license to do. O Rama, they who behave like beasts cannot be instructed. For they are being led like animals by the rope of their own mind. Hence the wise man does not attempt to teach those who have not overcome their own mind and are therefore miserable in every way. So in the beginning I said, Yoga Brashta is not meant for everybody, but then popular demand, Yoga Brashta, Yoga Brashta, Yoga. Some people, whenever they ask me, say, when is the next Yoga Brashta? Out of respect, so I am doing the yoga. Rama said, Lord, you are instructing me to abandon the ego sense and the craving that it gives rise to. If I abandon the ego sense, then surely I should give up this body. All is based on ego sense. For the body and the life force rest on the support of the ego. When the root is cut, then the tree also will fall. How is it possible for me to abandon the ego sense and yet carry on living in this body? Vasishtha replied, Rama, the abandonment of all notions, conditioning and conceptualization is said to be of two kinds. One is based on knowledge or direct realization, and the other is based on contemplation. I will describe in detail. One should become aware of one's deluded notion in which one thinks, I belong to these objects of the world and my life depends upon them. I cannot live without them. They cannot exist without me either. Then by profound inquiry one contemplates, I do not belong to these objects, nor do these objects belong to me. Thus abandoning oneself, abandoning the ego sense, through intense contemplation, one should playfully engage oneself in actions that happen naturally, but with the heart and mind cool and tranquil. Such an abandonment of the ego sense and the conditioning is known as contemplative egolessness, which means when the enforcement directorate knocks on your door, you should neither run for your life. I know somebody went and sat in a water tank. You should neither run for your life, nor get violent with those guys, nor say, who do you think you are? They'll say, I am the self. Who knows? But treat it coolly and say, this is the world, good things happen, disasters also happen. So here this will go and something else will happen. And say, please sit down, do you want a cup of tea? Or coffee, depends. Coffee country, everybody drinks tea. That's funny. So, he is liberated even while living, who playfully abandons the ego sense through the contemplative method. He who uproots this ego sense completely by the direct experience is established in equanimity, is liberated. Janaka and others like him follow the contemplative method. Others who have direct experience of egolessness are one with Brahman and have risen beyond body consciousness. However, both of them are liberated and both of them are one with the Brahman. Which means, you may see someone who has realized the goal and who knows that there is nothing except the Supreme Consciousness, who may be living quietly because he has nothing to do in a hermitage in the forest, or You may see such a person living in this world and doing his duties and yet knowing that this is the truth. Two sorts of people are there in this world. He is considered a liberated sage who is not swayed by the desirable and the undesirable, who lives in this world and functions, though inwardly totally untouched by this world, as if in deep sleep. That doesn't mean you should go to sleep. I see somebody on the verge of Shushupti. The borderline between Shushupti and Turiya is so thin. As the sage Vashishtha said this, another day came to an end. The assembly dispersed. The liberated sage, who is disinterested in the events of the past, present and the future, looks at the state of the world in amusement. He gets really amused. His amusement of the mad things that people do is really amusing. He's saying, we are unable to expound the philosophy of the fools who have not controlled their own minds and who are immersed in the mire of sense pleasure. They are only interested in sexual pleasures, acquisition of material wealth and so on. We are also unable to expound the truth of rituals and routines which bestows all kinds of rewards in the shape of pain and pleasure. O Rama, in this connection, there is an ancient legend which I shall narrate to you. In the continent known as Jambudvipa, on the bank of the river Vyomaganga, there lived a holy man named Dirghatapa. Now the word meaning of Dirghatapa means long tapasya. But anyway, this is the name of the man or the person. In the continent known as Jambudvipa, on the bank of the river Vyomaganga, there lived a holy man named Dirghatapa who had two sons. One was named Punya, the other was named Pavana. Now Punya had reached full enlightenment, but Pavana, though he had overcome ignorance, had not yet reached full enlightenment, and hence he had semi-wisdom. It's difficult to explain what is semi-wisdom. With the inexorable passage of time, with the inexorable passage of invisible and intangible time, sometimes you can't make out how time goes, right? One day you're 25, and another day you're 40. You don't know. And then you say, now I'm 40, and without your knowledge it becomes soon 60, and so on and so forth. You don't know how it moves. Although we would like to live as we are, which is why photography is so popular. You know why? Because we know that things move and not the same. So we want to freeze things as they are. So while time moves, you can see the old photographs. This is how I looked before. Anyway, so this Dirghatapa was living in Jambudvipa with two sons called Punya and Pavana. Punya had reached full enlightenment. Pavana, though he had overcome ignorance, had not yet reached full enlightenment, and hence he had semi-wisdom. I must say that there are many Pavanas and there are very few Punyas in this world. There are many Pavanas. Something is there they have touched. They don't know what it is. They know it has to go. This is called probably semi-in. Now if it is semi, then it's easy to teach. If there is zero, then it is difficult. Anyway, it's semi-wisdom. With the inexorable passage of time, visible, invisible and intangible time, the sage Dirghatapa abandoned the body and reached the state of utter purity. The only thing that was there in him, in Dirghatapa, was the body. When that also was gone, he was pure, fully pure. Using the yogic method, she had learned from him. His wife also followed him. Now, is there a yogic method by which you can also die? I mean, follow? Yes, there is. We call it Purna Khechari. Maheshwarnath Babaji used to jocularly say that it's called spiritual suicide. In Purna Khechari, you do the Khechari mudra after holding your breath. And after, please don't try. And after a time, the pulse stops, then the breath stops, and the heart stops. Then all the functions of the body also stop. And when nothing is working, then the soul has no business here, so it goes off. So this wife of Dirghatapa, name is not given. Maybe Sundari or somebody. She, using the yogic method which she had learned from him, followed him. At this sudden departure of parents, Pavana was sunk in grief and loudly wailed inconsolably. Punya, on the other hand, performed the funeral ceremonies but remained unmoved by the bereavement. He approached his grieving brother Pavana and said to him, "Brother, why do you bring this dreadful sorrow upon yourself? The blindness of ignorance alone is the cause of this torrential downpour of tears from your eyes. Our father has departed from here along with our mother to that state of liberation or the highest state which is natural to all beings and is the very being of those who have overcome the self. You have ignorantly bound yourself to the notions of father and mother, and yet you grieve for those who are liberated from such ignorance. They are liberated from this ignorance, and you are grieving for them. Brother, inquire within yourself, just to mention. When the father and mother died, one was weeping and the other was doing the funeral rites and teaching his brother. Soon as they died, they were not searching in the almirahs to see where the deed is left. Will. Please note, so these are not ordinary people, otherwise, अरे गया सो गया, कहाँ रखा है will देखो जो. Some crying and all will happen, of course, but after that. So anyway, You have ignorantly bound yourself to the notions of father and mother, and yet you grieve for those who are liberated from such ignorance. Brother, inquire within yourself. This body is inert and is composed of blood, flesh and bones. What is the I in it? If you thus inquire into the truth, you will realize that there is nothing which is you or anything which is I. What is called Punya or Pavana are all notions of the mind. However, if you still think I am, then in the incarnations past, you have had so many relatives, right? Not one. Why do you not grieve for their death? You had many swan relatives when you were a swan. Swan. That swan picture was very good. Deepak. Many tree relatives when you were a tree. Many lion relatives when you were a lion. Many fish relatives when you were a fish. Why do you weep? Why do you not weep for them? You are a prince, you are a donkey, you are a peepal tree, and you are a banyan tree. You are a brahmana, you are a fly, you are also an ant and a mosquito. You are a scorpion for half a year. You are a bear, and now you are my brother. In these many embodiments that you have taken birth again and again countless times, even so, I have had many embodiments. I see them all. And your embodiments too I can see through my subtle intelligence, which is pure and clear vision. I was a bird, a crane, a frog, a tree, a camel, a king, a tiger. And now I am your elder brother. In all these embodiments, there were countless relatives. Whom shall I mourn for? Considering this, I do not grieve. Abandon the notion of the world which arises in your mind as the I. You have no unhappiness, no birth, no father, no mother. Chidananda Rupa Shivoham Shivoham. You are the self and nothing else. The sages perceive the middle path. They see what is at the moment and they are at peace. They are established in witness consciousness. Thus instructed by his brother, Bhavana was awakened. Both of them remained as enlightened beings, endowed with wisdom and direct realization. Therefore, Rama, craving is the root of all sorrow. Well, have you heard the first sermon of the Buddha? First sermon. It was done in Sarnath, they say. Yes, it was held in Sarnath. Now, why is the place named Sarnath? Anybody? Sarang is a deer. Deer. You don't know? Saranga deriya. Saranga is a deer. Now that deer you will find in Shiva sitting there. In some of the Shiva's images, in the right index fingers, it's a small deer, darting deer. This is the symbol of the mind. The deer, because have you seen the deer in the forest? The mind also darts like a deer. So Shiva is the Lord of the mind, so he is called Saranganath. And Saranath is a short form of Saranganath. Even before Buddha sat in the grove and preached, there is an ancient temple of Saranganath there, of Shiva. Anyway, this is the place where the Buddha went and gave his first sermon. Why? He had mastered the darting mind. And he had himself become Saranganath. So sitting there, the first sentence that Buddha uttered is what has been said here. What has been said here? Craving is the root of all sorrow. What did Buddha say? Desire is the root of all sorrow. Nirvana is freedom from sorrow, which means freedom from craving. What is there to crave when your own essential self is the most blissful, joyous, all-pervading, deathless entity? What will you crave? For what? The little things. Anyway, craving is the root of all sorrow, Rama. The only intelligent way to live is to renounce all cravings completely and not indulge in them. Tough. Oh Rama, this indeed is called the Brahman state, pure, free from craving, from all illness. The mind attains fulfillment only by utter dispassion, not by filling it with desires and hopes. To those who are devoid of any attachment or craving, the three worlds as wide as the footprint of a calf, and the whole world cycle is just a minute, just a moment. Hence, for restoring peace of mind, remove the disturbing cause which is hope or craving. O Rama, bring about a transmutation of the mind, even as the great King Bali did, Mahabali. So I will narrate to you the story of Mahabali. You know that Mahabali was the king of the Asuras. Every year in Kerala they celebrate Onam. They say that maybe Kerala was Asura world, and I don't know. They say Mahabali comes out every year to look at his country. I may be right. And flowers are made, all that, and celebrated. Anyway. But Mahabali was a good Asura. So I said yesterday, day before, in the ancient Puranas that we have in India, there is no watertight compartment for good, and only evil. There is no Satan in God like that. Asuras are considered to be negative, but there are good Asuras. Devas are supposed to be, but there are bad Devas. Indra is always stealing somebody's horse. So, anyway, so Mahabali was one of the great rulers of the Asuras, but he was supposed to be a very good king. In the Bhagavad, you know the story, right? How many people know? Are I thought everybody knows. So Mahabali, shall I briefly, so you'll understand this man, Bali, Mahabali. So Mahabali was ruling with great splendor, looking after his subjects, everybody was happy and so on. One day there appeared, but his ego had become so big. He was a good man. that he thought he could give anything to anybody, he had full control over the three worlds and so on and so forth. So one day a visitor arrived, and the visitor was a small fellow, like a little boy of 8. The Purana calls him Vamana. He arrived. He was dressed like a Brahmin, sacred thread, umbrella which they hold for the sun, palm leaf umbrella. And it must be Kerala, because in Kerala palm leaf umbrellas are popular. Anyway, and had all the paraphernalia of a travelling brahmachari, and barefoot, beautiful face, shining. Mahabali was intrigued by this guest, so he said, he's a holy person, wash his feet and so on. And then they washed his feet, he made him sit, and he said, you seem to be a brahmachari. Brahmacharis and sannyasins are supposed to eat through begging food. Brahmacharis don't have time to work, they are studying, so the food is provided to them. Sannyasins have no time because they are left everything, so food has to be given to them. So it is the nature of a Brahmana to beg for food. When the Upanayanam is done and the little child is given a thread, the first thing he is asked to do is to go and beg in 3 houses. You learn also humility. I have begged, I know how it is. Sometimes you have to bear insults. Nowadays it doesn't happen, it's all pre-arranged. Bhiksha is pre-arranged. So anyway, this Vamana came and his feet were washed and he sat down, and Mahabali, with his broadness of mind and his ego, which said, I can do anything in this world, put his hands together and said, please ask me whatever you want and I will give it to you. This little fellow said, I will ask, but will you give it to me? He said, I promise. Shukracharya, we read about Shukra somewhere. Shukracharya was the preceptor, the guru of the Asuras. So he went to Mahabali and whispered in his ear, O king, just a minute, you don't know who this is. You don't know who this is. Just be careful what you're saying. What if he asks for something that you cannot give? Mahabali silenced him. He said, Gurudev, please let me give. I feel charity in my heart. Please don't say anything. Shukra said, okay, you learn by your experiences, and withdrew. So this boy said, I only want some very small thing. He said, what do you want? I want a small piece of land which is only as big as my foot. I don't want anything else. So Mahabali thought to himself, that's only this much. I can give you much. No, I won't. 1 foot. मिल जाएगी आराम से. So he said, granted. So the young Vamana stood up and put 1 foot. The foot grew and grew and grew and took off the entire Bhuloka. The entire earth was occupied by the 1 foot. Then Mahabali realized that this is not an ordinary little boy, but then he had promised. He said, let it continue. This is the sign of a great person. This one foot took away the entire Bhuloka, Bhuvarloka, Swargaloka, all the lokas and talas were occupied by this foot which grew. Nothing else was left. But there is still the other foot, right? So Vamana said, where shall I put the other foot? Everything is covered. Mahabali bent his head. Here, said. So Vamana put the other foot on Mahabali's head, and it is said that Mahabali went down into the netherworld, but lived happily there ever after. So like that, why did I say this? About Mahabali, yes. So, O Rama, bring about a transmutation of the mind even as King Mahabali did. I will narrate to you the story of Bali. The Asura king Bali, son of Virochana, ruled over the Patala region. Now there is a controversy. Some people say this is Patala. Why? Because our padas are on it. So the tala on which your padam is Padala. So this could be also, anyway. Ruled over the Patala region. The Lord of the universe, Sri Hari himself, protected this king. Even the king of heaven, Indra, adored him. By the heat of the very radiance of this king Mahabali, the oceans would dry up, as it were. His eyes were so powerful that by a mere look he could move mountains. Bali ruled for a very long time over Patala, or another world. In course of time, intense dispassion overcame King Mahabali, and he began to inquire thus, how long should I rule over this netherworld? How long should I wander in the three worlds? What shall I gain by ruling over this kingdom, when all that is in the three worlds is subject to destruction? How can one hope to enjoy happiness in this? Again and again the same disgusting pleasures are experienced and the same acts are repeated day after day in this world. How is it that even a wise man is not ashamed of this? The same day and the same night, again and again, life in this world revolves like a whirlpool. Doing all this every day, how can one reach that state in which there is a complete cessation of this repetitive existence? How long shall we continue to revolve in this whirlpool, and of what use it? Now please understand, only if this thought seriously occurs in somebody will that person move towards moksha. If he is happy with the repetitive world, it's all right. You can theoretically understand and let it be. While he was thus reflecting, remembering, suddenly he said, I remember what my father Virochana told me once. I had asked him, Father, what is the destination of this world appearance or repetitive existence? When will it all come to an end? When all the delusion of the mind will cease? Gaining what should I attain total satisfaction? Seeing what shall I seek nothing else? I see that it is impossible to attain this by means of the experience of the worldly pleasures or actions, for they only aggravate the delusion. Pray tell me the means by which I shall rest forever in supreme peace. Virochana said to Bali, my son, there is a vast realm wide enough to engulf the three worlds. In it, there are no lakes, there are no ocean, no mountains, no forests, no rivers, no earth, no sky, no wind, no moon, no god, no demon, no demidemons or demigod. No vegetation, no heaven, no high, no low, no words, not me nor the gods like Vishnu. Only one is there. That is the supreme light, the Brahman. He is omnipotent, omnipresent, he is all and he remains silent, as if inactive. It is prompted by him that his minister does everything. What has not been, he brings about, and what is, he alters. This minister is incapable of enjoying anything. He does not know anything. Though ignorant and insentient, he does everything for the sake of the master, the king. The king remains alone, established in peace. Now, we remember the story we read yesterday about the Yaksha who came to test the gods. So while everything is being done, the actual source is sitting silent. Bali asked, Father, what is that realm which is free from psychosomatic illness? Why did they ask? Because there may be other illnesses in this world. But when you have this psychosomatic disease, which mistakes the real for the unreal and the unreal for the real, now that is a serious affair. Right? When you say psychosomatic, what do you see? Illusions. Or you see what is not there sometimes. You may doubt people. You may suspect something is happening. All this is psychosomatic. Now, what could be the greatest psychosomatic disorder? What you think is really not real. And what you think is not there is real. Father, what is that realm which is free from psychosomatic illnesses? Who is that minister and who is that king? The story is wonderful and unheard of. Kindly explain it to me. Virochana replied, all the gods and demons put together, and even opposed many times their strength, cannot even challenge the minister. He is not the Indra. He is not Indra, the king of gods, nor the god of death, nor the god of wealth, nor a god, nor a demon who can easily conquer. Though it is believed that God Vishnu killed the demons, it was indeed this minister who destroyed them. In fact, even the gods like Vishnu were overpowered by him and made to take birth here. Cupid derives power from this minister. Anger derives its power from him too. It is because of his wish that there is unceasing conflict between good and evil here. This minister, can only be defeated by his own master, the king, by no one else. When in due course of time there arises such a wish in the heart of the king, this minister can be easily defeated. He is the most powerful in all the three worlds, and all the three worlds are but his exhalation. If you have the ability to conquer him, you are indeed a hero. When the minister arises, the three worlds are manifest. Even as the lotus blooms when the sun rises, when he retires, the three worlds become dormant. If you can conquer him with your mind utterly one-pointed and completely free of delusion and ignorance, then you are a hero. If he is conquered, then all the worlds and everything in them are conquered. If he is not conquered, then nothing is conquered. Even if you think that you have conquered this or that in this world. Hence, my son, in order to attain absolute perfection and eternal bliss, strive with all your might and in every possible way, whatever be the difficulties and obstacles, to conquer that minister. Bali asked, Father, by what effective means can that powerful minister be conquered? Virochana replied, though this minister is almost invisible, my son, I shall tell you how to conquer him. He is overcome in a moment if one grasps him by means of intelligent action. In the absence of such intelligent action, he burns everything like a venomous snake. One who approaches him intelligently plays with him as one plays with a child and playfully subdues him. Such a one beholds the king and is established in the supreme state. For once the king is seen, the minister comes completely under one's control. And when the minister is under one's control, the king is seen clearly. Until the king is seen. Now, here, who is the minister? The mind. Who is the king? The supreme self which acts through the mind. So when this is understood, so Bali asked, Father, kindly tell me what practice will enable me to conquer the mind, the minister. Virochana replied, the very best intelligent means by which the mind can be subdued is complete freedom from desire, hope, or expectation in regard to all objects at all times. It is by this means that this powerful elephant, the mind, can be subdued. This means is both very easy but also extremely difficult, my son. It is very difficult for one who does not engage himself in serious practice, but very easy for one who is earnest in his effort. Just as there is no harvest without sowing, the mind is not subdued without persistent practice. Hence, take up this practice until one turns away from sense pleasure here. One will continue to roam in this world of sorrow. Even a strong man will not reach his destination if he does not move towards it. No one can reach the state of total dispassion without persistent practice. Only by right exertion can dispassion be attained. There is no other means. People talk of divine grace or fate, but in this world we perceive the body, not a God. When people speak of God, they imply what is inevitable, what is beyond their control, and events of a natural order. Even so, whatever brings about total equanimity and the cessation of joy and sorrow is also referred to as divine grace. Divine grace, natural order, and right self-exertion all refer to the same truth. The distinction is due to wrong perception or illusion. Whatever the mind conceives of through self-exertion comes to be in its fruition. And when the mind apprehends such fruition, there is joy. The mind is the doer. In whatever it conceives of, the natural order called niyati creates and manifests. The mind is also able to run counter to the natural order. Hence it may even be said that the mind is the prompter of the natural order. Even as the mind moves in space, the individual jiva functions in this world, doing what has to be done within the natural order through such action appears to be selfish or egotistic. Prompted by nature, he seems to move or stand still, both of which are mere expressions of false superimposition, even as the movement of trees on a mountain top makes it look as if the peak is swaying. Hence, as long as there is mind, There is neither God nor a natural order. When the mind has ceased to be, let there be whatever is. Bali asked, Lord, tell me how the cessation of craving for pleasure can be firmly established in my heart. Virochana said, my son, self-knowledge is the creeper that yields the fruit of cessation of craving for pleasure. It is only when the self is seen that the highest form of dispassion gets rooted in the heart. Hence one should simultaneously behold the self through intelligent inquiry and therefore get rid of the craving for pleasure. I'll say something else to add to this. When one realizes that even at rare movements, when one is satisfied and is not craving, even rare moments, it happens like this. I craved for something. With great difficulty, pain, I achieved it. Anything. And then at that moment of achieving it, and for a short time after that, I don't have a craving. Then there is immense peace and happiness in me. Only problem is, then I have another craving coming up. Understanding this, when one realizes that at the time when there is no craving, there is such immense bliss, even in ordinary things. If we can put an end to this from the root, how much happiness will be there in oneself, how much peace and fulfillment will be there in oneself, because when it is put to an end completely, it's not like the other one, temporary. Then what remains is not the mind, but only the Supreme Brahman, which has been described in the ancient texts as Satchidananda, which means it is the truth, the reality, as opposed to what we think is reality and is not. And it is consciousness, chit. It's not a material object, it's chit. And what is its intrinsic nature? Happiness, ananda, satisfaction, happiness. That is its intrinsic nature, and that's what you are. Although for many births we have identified with many personalities, when you realize that behind all this drama there is only one being, then all restlessness, all anxiety, all cravings come to a rest, because you crave because you want joy, right? When you have found the treasure trove of joy, what will you crave for? If you have the treasure trove of joy and you're still looking for small cravings, it's okay if you have a Coke, no problem. But don't get caught in it, that if I don't get Coke, I'll die. So this slowly Vashishtha is trying to free people from the small images that we have of ourselves and the small attachment that happen between these images, which actually has no meaning. So we meet. At 4, I thought he's saying 4 more minutes. So we meet at 4. I would have done another half an hour, but at 76, the body also has it. Ooh, something fell. Can you take this? I am trapped by the craving for happiness.